Hello, welcome everyone to this webinar introducing you the new features in the latest release of InSite seismic processing software, which is the version 3.18. Well, this is just a short list of the main features added to this new version. The first one affects the performance of the location algorithm, the grid search location algorithm, and it adds now the capability to constrain the grid search to points that are either inside or outside of objects defined in the 3D visualizer. These objects could be an ellipsoid, a cylinder, or a cuboid. And in this way, we don't get events located out of zone or out of the realistic volume where we expect events to locate. It also improves the performance because the search does not extend further away than what is the expected volume or the velocity model that we have. And also allows to work with grids that are not oriented in the geographical coordinates directions. We'll see a demonstration of this one immediately after. But also, and this is the first feature I'm going to show you, we incorporate now the facility, the option to add a user access control into InSite. It is creating an administrator and users at different levels of access to the features within InSite. This is just to secure, to protect the software against anyone hacking or getting into our workstation, and also to facilitate the control of who's got access to the software and who doesn't. So I think it's best if we go to a live demonstration. And as I said, I'm going to start demonstrating this user access control in InSite. And for that, we need to first install the new update of InSite. So I'm going to launch it. Yeah, so here you see what is the installation program for InSite. We click next, we read the license agreement, agree with this. The use of CopyMinder if you're working with a digital license. Whether you want to install it for all users or just for you in the computer, click on next. The folder where you want to install InSite. And this is a new feature. This is where by default is not adding that, but if you click on this, it will add the option to create users and limit the access to InSite to these users. So I'm going to click this option to demonstrate it and complete the setup of InSite, the installation of InSite. Right, so we've completed the installation, finish, and now let's launch. This will be the first run of InSite since it has been reinstalled, and we can see the first window, the first message that we get is that we need to create an administrator account to access InSite because we have selected that option. So we need to create a password. The password needs to start with needs to be at least 8 characters long and include a capital letter, a lowercase letter, a special character, and a series of numbers. So once you create your administrator account, yeah, we can run InSite and get to So now I'm logging to InSite as an administrator, and if we go to File, we can see here options for management of user accounts, switching user, which is not, we cannot do that because we haven't created any other users, and change our password. If I open this option for user management, we can see here we have the option to change our own password or add new users. So I'm going to add a user 1 and enter a password for them. If you can see here, if I if the password is too short, it tells me it needs to be at least 8 characters long. So we can customize that option, so we can actually stipulate it to be at least a lower number of characters. The minimum value is 4. If we set it to 3, we can see that, yeah, it will tell us that the minimum number is 4 because it needs to include all these types of characters: capital, lowercase, number, and a special character. So yeah, I'll set it back to 8. We can also customize the time period for the validity of this password that we add. That means users will be reminded to change their passwords every 30 days by default, or a higher number of days, whatever you decide. We can also customize the number of maximum login attempts. So if the user fails to enter the login, fails on the password more than 3 times in this case, the account will be disabled for a period of 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, the user can try again, and if access is still blocked, they will need to contact the administrator to reset their password. So I'm going to add just a user account just to demonstrate this. So create a user number 1. Okay. And now we have the option to switch users. So we can see now I'm logged in now as a standard user, not as an administrator, so I don't have now here the option to manage accounts. The only options we have are switching user and changing our own password by introducing the existing password and creating a new one. Okay, so yeah, so this is basically how it works. So this new feature enhancing the security of the software. So let's go now onto an example data set to demonstrate the second feature, which is these changes to the way grid search works. I'm going to open a project that has already been processed. It's in this case, it's a hydraulic fracturing job. We can see our events defining a line, a linear fracture zone. And well, if we visualize, we can go here, properties, 3D grid, and show our grid search works. We can see that grid search will perform a search across all this big volume. And this volume is always aligned along the north, south, and east-west directions and down directions along the geographical coordinates. If this volume is too large and we know our fracture, our events will be constrained to a smaller area that it's oriented in a different orientation, we can use a, I'm going to delete this one actually, I'm going to create a new object. So I'm going to go to the drawing objects here and delete the existing cuboid. Yeah, just to demonstrate. We can use any of these objects. We can use an ellipsoid, we can use a cylinder, or we can use a cuboid. I'm going to try with a cuboid in this case, to restrict where our events will locate. I can adjust, of course, this cuboid, so we can give it this orientation, make it a bit narrower if you want. Yeah, make it. So, if we open the processing properties and go to where we define how the configuration of our collapsing grid search, we can find these new items in the dialog where we can either include only the points that are within this object, which is just defined, the cuboid, or only the ones that are outside. In this case, we would select invert. So let's see how it works. And I'm going to run the location just to see what happens. You can see now we have 500 events locating here. If I run this now with this new constraint, we'll probably get fewer. And it's not a simple filter. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. It's not like it's filtering out any events that are outside of the cuboid. It will try and fit our events to a suitable solution within that object, within that cube. So some of the events that are at the moment are currently outside of this box might fall inside or might locate on the edges of this box, because that will be a suitable solution. And that, of course, will depend on the residual that we set. So close this. Yeah, and you can see what I meant here. So I've restricted our search to this small volume, and some of the events that would locate outside, because the optimal solution would be outside, found a reasonable solution on the edges of this box. So this is just a quick overview of how this works. This is useful, as I said, if we know our fracture will be oriented not along the geographical coordinates, but along a different direction. Or, for example, in the lab, if we're working with a cube or a cylindrical sample, we know our acoustic emission events will not locate outside of the sample, so we can constrain our locations within our sample using one of these objects. So that was a very quick overview. Of course, apart from these new features, there are some bug fixes, as with any new version of InSite, some crashes and some limitations we had before in the import of STL objects. So now we can also cater for objects created with SolidWorks, and some observed crashes in the help menu. Well, thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us on our email, asc-info@appliedseismology.co.uk, and you can find a wealth of information on other features and tools in InSite, in the videos in our YouTube channel, and always follow the latest news from us in our LinkedIn page. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you on our next video.